Oh, hi there, listeners. It's me, Ash, here with a little content warning. This episode is a discussion on mental health and Heartstopper, so we're going to touch on some tough topics that might be triggering. I also wanted to say that we are not mental health professionals, just two human beings with a little lived experience. All right, let's get into the episode. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast. I'm Ashley, she, her, and today I am here with a very special guest.
I'm Gloria, she, her.
And we are going to have a little chat about Heartstopper and mental health. So, Gloria, before we get started, if you want to just give a little background info on who you are, and if you want to talk about how we met.
Sure. So, my name is Gloria, like we already said. I'm just super happy to be here. I've only been a fan of Heartstopper since 2 or 3 months before season 3 came out, but it's grown to mean a lot to me, and I'm just super happy to be able to talk about it with you and to have met you, especially at the Warfare screening that we went to in Atlanta. Yeah. It was crazy and a beautiful experience, and you made it even better. So it's nice to be here with you.
Yeah, it was so fun. We both traveled a little bit to get there, but it was a great night.
It was.
Okay, and then this is a little bit of a curveball because I forgot to put it on the outline for you, but I also ask everyone who comes on their Heartstopper origin. So how did you come across it?
Oh, okay. Heartstopper origin. All of a sudden, I had seen it a bunch on social media and stuff, but I'd never given it a chance. I even have photos saved from 2022 on my phone. I was they're so cute, but I never actually took the time to watch it. And then all of a sudden I kept seeing it again on my timeline because people were oh, it's coming. Season 3 is almost here. And I was I'm just going to do it. I'm going to watch it. And all of a sudden I was absolutely hooked. Like I said, it was 2 or 3 months before season 3 came out, and it's just been a beautiful journey,
Yeah. Yes, I love that. You honestly, that's 2 or 3 months. That's not that much wait time, so you got to really kind of slide in there for that season 3 release.
I was really happy to be a part of the excitement that comes with a release. And I'm excited to live that for the movie too, hopefully.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
All right. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about mental health. And so I guess just to intro, we could talk just a little bit about why mental health in mainstream media is important and why teen mental health representation is significant in that. I feel like it's 2025, but we are still doing so much work to destigmatize having any kind of mental health struggle. And also on top of just having it and acknowledging it, getting help for it, and having this representation in mainstream media, it validates certain experiences that can feel really isolated when you're going through it. And so having it be seen and be represented can help people feel more comfortable asking for help. Seeing someone ask for help, seeing someone actively seeking it out makes it feel more like a more realistic goal for yourself. Again, it just simply normalizes it. So, and then another positive is that it kind of works sort of like early detection for medical conditions, because
absolutely
you see someone who's expressing the same feelings and thoughts that you are, the same behaviors, and you see them ask for help and start to get treatment. You're oh, maybe something like that's going on with me too. Whereas without seeing it, who knows how long it would have taken you to come to that conclusion.
I never thought of that, actually. That's super important.
Yeah. And then also outside of the self-reflection piece, it can also help you to understand the people you love better too, right? You might be watching this and see a friend or a family member or even a coworker in something that you're watching, and that can impact your judgment or perception of that person. And so I think that's also another really important reason why it's important to have this representation.
No, I super agree with all of that. I think something that gets me about Heartstopper is that while it does talk about mental health, it does so in a non-cartoony way. It's very realistic and nuanced.
Yeah.
in how it demonstrates how someone can get help and how progress is not linear and how much of like a up and down cycle it is. I'd never thought about it with what you said about early detection, but it's so true because we can feel so lonely and we can feel so misunderstood, but seeing ourselves, even if it's in a fictional character, can make you feel one, less alone, and two, like realize what could possibly be affecting you or how it's affecting
Mm-hmm.
you. And that can totally impact like your perspective on life and like how quickly you are able to advocate for yourself, and how you advocate for yourself at all.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of the self-discovery piece too. And I think that's why it relates so much to like adults and teenagers, because we all struggle. There's no age to limit to struggling, and
Mm-hmm.
normalizing it for everyone and knowing that you can always progress and you can always like heal with help and you can always like go on your own journey to being better, but knowing that it's not bad that you're feeling badly
Yeah.
about anything that's going on or anything in the world or with
Yes.
you. It's just huge for everyone.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know a lot of adults that see their own mental health struggles reflected in these teens, and that's like
Hmm.
something that they never saw before, and with Heartstopper, it's all the time talking about the representation, the LGBTQIA representation that it gives us, but there's all these other factors of representation that we're getting to, and this is a big one.
Hmm. And I think talking about teenagers especially, like everyone faces so many different pressures from like society of like who to be and what to be like and like different types of things that you should do,
Mm-hmm.
even our value as people and like productivity and things like that. But teenagers, they're still developing. And there's this weird balance between being like independent but still being dependent. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's just such a confusing time to like navigate. And I think getting at least a little bit of clarity or seeing yourself in someone else, like I said, even if it's a fictional character, can be almost healing in its own way to just be recognized and see
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. And also, like, at least with adults, when you're going through stuff like this, you can sort of, I won't
Hmm.
say not for everybody, but for the general population, you can sort of kind of regulate your emotions throughout it. Whereas when you're a teenager and your emotions are going
Hmm.
every which direction as you develop, like you said, it's way harder to, when you hit those extreme
Hmm.
highs or those extreme lows, to kind of pull yourself back into
Hmm.
that middle ground. And so when you don't know what's going on and why you're feeling that way and you feel like you're the only one, that's another factor that makes it even harder to come back over. So just having those extremes kind of shown
Hmm.
on the TV just really will make you feel like not so alone and that you'll be able to get through those moments.
Hmm. That's a big part of it. Like, you can get better because even though, yes, there is like, how do I say, Heartstopper doesn't focus on the tragedy, even though it shows very real pain, but it
Yeah.
also shows like obviously the journey part of it being part of your journey to joy, kind of, and how that can still be a thing at the end for you, and that it's not the end at all
Yes.
if you get the chance to not be.
Right.
Like, if you get help, which is really brave, but also struggling on your own is really brave. So it's a weird line to balance, but like seeing that even help is something that you deserve or you can get is huge.
Yeah. You hit on something. Alice, there's a quote I pulled from her that said, I wanted to write about mental health, not as a tragedy, but as something that exists alongside hope. And I feel like that's kind
Hmm.
of exactly what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
So I also wrote down just some statistics to kind of give an overview. World Health Org, the 2019 numbers, which was the most up-to-date ones that they had, showed that 970 million people globally
Hmm.
were living with a mental health disorder. And they didn't, like I said, have any other updated stats, and that was pre-pandemic, so I'm sure that number
Hmm.
has gone way up. And then NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have yearly stats up on their website. And so these are some just U.S. stats that I pulled. 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience a mental health disorder. 1 in 20 U.S. adults experience a serious mental health disorder, which means they access treatment.
Mm-hmm.
1 in 6 youth, ages 6 to
Wow.
17, experience a mental health disorder. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14,
Wow.
and 75% by age 24. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 14, and the third leading cause amongst ages 15 to 24. People with depression have a 40% chance, or a 40% higher risk of developing cardiovascular and metabolic diseases than those who do not. So that just shows how it factors into your overall health. High school students with significant symptoms of depression are more than twice as likely to drop out compared to their peers.
Yes.
Students ages 6 to 16 with mental, emotional, or behavioral concerns are 3 times more likely to repeat a grade. And among people in the U.S. under 18, depressive disorders are the most common cause of hospitalization. And that is after excluding pregnancy-related hospitalization. So those stats can kind of speak for themselves on why the youth really need to see this type of representation and be able to understand it and themselves a little bit better. And I feel like Heartstopper, especially in YA media, is the best mental health representation I've ever seen. It really covers a lot of ground and some really heavy topics, but it's all handled with such care, and even some of it is so subtle that it's hard to pick up on, unless you're watching it 800 times like us.
Yes.
But the way that they normalize everything in the show, and just no one's judging anybody about anything. They're all just, okay, I understand, and I'm here for you. And so I think that it will also help teens learn how to support each other when they know someone who is going through something as well.
Absolutely. And it's kind of reminding me of, I think I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but Mr. Ajayi and how he supports Charlie, but Charlie being open enough to talk to him and having that kind of first contact or first reaching out to someone. And it shows kind of the effect that teachers, just like friends, can have on their students.
Yeah.
So you said something that really struck me, and it's how things are shown subtly or with such care that you almost don't even notice, and it's normalized in such a way that really like gets to people in ways they didn't expect. But I think also that is a way of representing how you may not see people's pain. Like from the outside, you may not know they're struggling. You may not recognize what they're going through, know what they're going through, even necessarily empathize with what they're going through. Because I think empathy can only go so far to a certain degree. But like it's demonstrative of how on the surface you may see one thing, but beneath that surface, there can be so many other things going on that you have to be kind of super aware of. And a lot of people, which is understandable, aren't necessarily used to looking for those signs and things. But when you watch a show like this, you can start kind of opening your eyes to, oh, maybe someone is struggling when they do A, B, or C. It's not necessarily all the time, but it can be indicative of different things and kind of open your eyes to just being more aware of other people.
And considerate almost, too. Like being aware and considerate of what they're going. I think that's something a lot of people forget in, you get going in your own life, you get busy, and you have an interaction, and you're thinking about how it made you feel and all the things that are going through it. And it's hard to slow down and go, okay, but what's going on with them that this is the interaction that we just had? And I think that is a really big problem that we have as a species, is that not enough people slow down and think about everyone else around them and what they're going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I figure we'll just start with Charlie because I think he'll probably be the bulk of the representation that we see, so the bulk of the conversation too. And then we'll move on to some other characters and topics. But I'll let you start because that's literally my note. It says, let her start because you have talked and talked and talked.
I think my first thing is how stress can come from family dynamics. And especially as a teenager, you're kind of trapped in that.
Yes.
And there's no way to like necessarily escape that, but kind of recognizing when something isn't to your benefit or when something isn't right just because it's your parents doing it, if that makes sense. Just knowing that things work differently within your family, that you may not understand each other on every level, or parents aren't always right, teenagers aren't always wrong. That type of thinking is huge.
Yeah, and that's something that you experience all the time in your family may not be normal to other families. And that's something that took me a long time. I mean, I was like in my 20s before I was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff here that I'm learning is not normal. So, yeah, definitely agree with that statement for sure.
And then I think it's really cool how we kind of see Charlie literally and metaphorically covered up by clothing, by control, by fear to a certain degree of letting go of that control, and how subtly like that isolation is shown, even if it's just by putting headphones in and kind of not paying attention to what's going on around him, but wanting to.
Yeah.
Like in the beach scenes.
Yes.
But slowly how he comes to terms, and almost, this can sound cheesy, but he like blooms and starts shedding those layers of clothing, and at the same time kind of sheds layers literally and symbolically of control, and that grants him like a new freedom.
Yes.
To just like be himself without, I don't think he might have felt shame, but without really having to be in charge all the time.
Yeah. Pressure, maybe, without the pressure. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. And you're right. Like, even throughout, like, season 1, first of all, is so subtle with his mental health. And then in season 2, when you really start to see bits of it, I feel like you see him in, like, the sweaters and, you know, when he's like picking at his arms, it's like through the sleeves and everything. And then as we progress through the show, there's less like maybe it's not a jumper per se, but it's like flannel, an open flannel that he has on. And then we see him without the flannel and just the t-shirt. So it is like he just is slowly shedding those layers. Very well said.
Thank you. I think something that really gets to me is, in a good way, that Charlie kind of breaks the stereotype for what strength can look like and bravery, because we tend to associate strength with a certain physicality or being loud about, oh, I'm so strong, macho, like type of thing. But his strength is quiet, and even though he's struggling with control and different things, like the unfortunate bullying that he went through and things like that, he knows who he is. And I think that's a really cool thing to kind of set apart. Like, he knows who he is and he accepts who he is, but you can still struggle despite knowing who you are and being like, he's confident in who he is, to me, to a certain degree, at least with the people that he loves and trusts.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's like a quiet strength that I really admire in Charlie, that I feel like sets him apart from some of the other characters and from any other characters I've seen in media almost, because he works despite fear. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. We don't see a lot of quote unquote strong characters that are struggling with like being anxious about it before they do or say something. And so it's not always that you're just like have this built-in bravery where you just jump all the time. Sometimes being brave is fighting through the fear.
Exactly.
And nobody's braver than my boy Charlie Spring.
You're right.
I do think also the depiction of residential treatment that we get, I think it was so important for them to make it clear. Like, we get that line from Charlie where it's like, it's not like this for everybody. You know, some people leave and they don't have any help at all. And some people it works really well. And it was lucky for me that it worked. And I think that that's really important because even just general therapy, like not every therapist is going to be a match. It just takes some time to find the right one every now and then, you know? Like for me, I went through 2 or 3 before I found the one that I liked and have been with. And so I think that's important to help people not get discouraged. Like if you ask for help and it didn't work out with the first one, it's not over. You can continue on that journey and still find a good fit, especially when the audience is younger and they might be taking cues from TV shows like this in a more serious way than the adults are. Having that be, this is not exactly what everyone's going to experience when they do it, is so important, just to make sure that people aren't running away with the idea. And almost like I think it can be romanticized when it's depicted in media. And especially in America, it's very difficult to find a residential. First of all, to get into a residential facility is a journey of its own. And then to make sure that it's one that helps is always a tough fit to find.
I really love that you mentioned that. And I hadn't thought about it, but it's self-advocacy in a way. But also, like you said, it took me quite a few therapists to find one that I kind of jived with to a certain degree, because you have to feel comfortable with the person that you're talking to, and you have to feel not judged, but like someone is taking you seriously and willing to tell you things that you wouldn't necessarily hear from anybody else. And also just the idea that different people won't have the same experience. The immediate thing that I thought of, aside from like the level of care or the quality of care rather, how that is also impacted by things like finances.
Yes.
Charlie is so brave, but he's also super lucky in that way. Like not everyone's going to find a Jeff first go around. And I'm super happy that he found a Jeff. And it's kind of in the way that he mentions that this isn't the experience for everyone. It's still giving like a hope that you can find that if you search and don't give up on yourself. So I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah. And you're right. The finances piece is huge. And he does say that he's lucky his parents could even afford to send him to a place like that. And then just even outside of insurance, it's so expensive on top of that. And if you don't have insurance and then finding one that will take a self-pay or has a sliding scale is hard. So there's a lot of barriers. And it takes a lot of advocacy and strength just to even get in there. So
absolutely.
I also think it's interesting that we see a male teen eating disorder story.
Yes.
Because that's one that is so underrepresented. I honestly can't think of another. I mean, I've seen some sports storylines with boys like making weight and stuff like that, but just general eating disorder that's not related to like a sports situation. I don't think I've seen one. Granted, I don't consume a ton of YA. And until I started Heartstopper, obviously everybody started recommending stuff to me and I started watching it. So, but you know, in my past, I haven't. So if there's others out there, send me their information and I will watch it because I think it's important to see. And I would love to compare Charlie to some other characters and how they did it. So
that's really important because like you said, they are an underrepresented group within that struggle. And it's almost like validating to people that can be struggling, like males, the men that can be, or boys that can be struggling, but also like indicative that there's no one look again to struggling, one gender, one
Yes.
sexuality, one
Yes.
lifestyle, one religious basis to struggling,
Hmm.
no like one anything quality that makes struggling unique in that way.
Yeah. And I think also, similarly, there's not one way that any diagnosis looks.
Hmm.
So, like, even the OCD rep is different because it's not tapping
Hmm.
tapping the door 5 times before you enter or obsessively cleaning. There's all of these other things that we see represented instead of the
Hmm.
stereotypical representation that you see with OCD.
That's something that I really admire about Heartstopper and Alice and their work, and even the work of the actors. Like they stay away from stereotypes in how they do it, how they write it,
Mm-hmm.
how they perform it, because stereotypes kind of serve more to harm than, yes, it's representation, but
Yeah.
is it positive or is it helpful to have this like
Yeah.
hyper representation, ultra. That's what I meant by cartoony before, like a super stereotyped like representation of what it means to have a mental health condition or issue. Just the way that that's done is so honestly like it almost transcends any barriers that we can put up, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And then also just the way in which I think I already said this once,
Hmm.
but the way in which that everybody just accepts it and supports each other through these diagnoses, like seeing someone
Hmm.
even the undiagnosed, like we see
Hmm.
Tara have her panic attack,
Hmm.
Darcy has a lot that they go through, Nick, even Isaac. So just seeing someone go through something and having these feelings, like with Charlie, these feelings of like
Hmm.
unworthiness or not loving themselves, and then just be truly supported and loved by so many people in his life is just like really beautiful to see.
No, I agree.
And I love it.
It's like that sense of community that is just accepting can be everything to
Yes.
someone that's struggling,
Yes.
especially whether it be like chosen family or found family, like the group is, the group of
Yes.
friends. It's also like to a certain degree, you're born into family. It's choice, but it's like in a different way, but it's still community that you have
Mm-hmm.
with you. And they're just all supportive in a way that more people should be.
Yeah. I feel like that ties back into slowing down and remembering other people are going through other things too.
Hmm.
It can get really easy to drown in your own in your
Yes.
own sadness and become very like woe is me, but like everybody is struggling, everybody is going through things, and
Hmm.
so if we all just remembered that, we could probably relate to way more people in our own lives with that we don't even know that we could relate to them in that way.
Hmm.
Also, I'm kind of jumping back around, touching on some stuff we already talked about, but the way that they did it in the show, where we get to see the build up, because like I said, like
Hmm.
season 1 is so subtle, and then season 2 is a little less subtle, and then we have the
Hmm.
bombshell at the end of that season, and then season 3 you're all in, and by the time you hit that point, the audience is just like begging Charlie
Hmm.
to ask for help. And so I just think that a lot of representation is like 0 to 60,
Hmm.
like they're fine. And then all of a sudden they're dressed in all
Yeah.
black and they're cutting themselves and
Hmm.
there's just out of nowhere, nobody knows what's going on. And we don't get to see that build up in a lot of it. And I think that's important too, to know that like
Hmm.
it is a snowball effect. And there's so many factors that go into that spiral that gets you from feeling a little bit sad one day
Hmm.
to going into residential, a year later. Like there's so many factors that go into that are not just
Yeah.
self-care. Like I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, you
Hmm.
should just take better care of yourself." And it's like well, okay, I can do all the self-care I want.
Exactly.
It's not going to help my chemicals balance the way that they're supposed to be balanced.
I think people can sometimes, let me say some people, don't take it seriously as like a condition, like a medical condition. They're quick to say, like, sometimes, like, just do this, just do that. You're just exaggerating. You're just being dramatic.
Yeah. You want attention.
Exactly.
I hate that one.
And it's like, it's a disease, it's a condition. Like, someone is unwell physically, and it can continue to affect your body. Like, I know for me at least, when I'm like really struggling, my heart is like pumping a million miles an hour, and it feels like it's about to pop out of my chest. And that's when I know like something is off, even if I like haven't necessarily accepted it. And it's like, whoa, 125, 130, 135, cool. People don't take seriously that it is a medical issue, a chemical imbalance issue, and that aside from that, it has very real repercussions on your body and your physical health.
Yeah.
Because it seems like things have to be physical for them to be taken seriously. But one, it is still physical, and two, it continues to have those effects even in other ways. So that reminded me of what you said.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So I figured with Nick, we can talk about his own mental health struggles that we see, but also the impact that Charlie's mental health has on him as a partner. So with Nick, we see a lot of people-pleasing and anxiety, and then identity struggles even outside of his sexuality crisis. And it's so interesting. I also have this cheesy note with Nick. It's interesting to watch him blossom once he meets Charlie. Because sometimes all it takes is meeting the right stranger to find a little piece of yourself that was missing. And that can be platonic as well as romantic. Just like meeting someone who gets you in a way that no one else does can just kind of flip your world upside down.
That's something that actually sets them apart, kind of. Just how Charlie is sure of who he is and what he wants. Nick is not. So it's really cool to see that juxtaposition in the characters and to show that, like, again, mental health doesn't have one look or one manifestation. And that physicality part of like strength, Nick's strength lies in like gentleness for me and kindness. But it's also like sometimes he forgets to be that to himself, which I really understand on like a deep, visceral level, you know. And even that scene with Tara on the bench, when she has to remind him that it's okay for him to have a reaction to Charlie's like mental health problems, and that he's allowed to have his own mental health problems and his own reactions and his own kind of perspective, and the right to need help, that's not taking away from anyone. And I think that's really important.
And I think something that we see a little bit with Nick is, or demonstrated with Nick, is that it's important to not compare your struggles to someone else's struggles. And that's something that was hard for me to learn because I was really bad about, I'm not going to talk. I was bad about talking to anybody. Well, I don't want to talk about my problems because they're going through something so much worse. But that's all perspective. It's all perspective. And so for him, I think he sees Charlie's quote unquote problems as worse. And so he tries really hard to shove down everything that he's feeling that's negative in order to be there for Charlie, when that's really doing himself a disservice and in the end is going to make his fuse a lot shorter for being there for others. It's so easy to say like, oh, but they're having such a harder time. Well, you can both talk to each other. It's not going to take anything away from your support to them to talk about your problems too.
Exactly. And that's part of what's quote unquote nice about having that community there and that trust there, that reciprocated trust and that reciprocated love and support. And it's allowed to be reciprocal. It doesn't have to be one-sided of like you showing someone all of your support. Like you're not taking away by having issues and your quote unquote or your own quote unquote problems. You're also a human being and
Mhm.
have the right to have your own struggles, you know?
Yeah. And to need support.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to need support. And there's a fine line too when you're struggle with people pleasing like Nick does and you fall into that caretaker role. I know that he wasn't like fully a caretaker, but in the sense of the show, he was kind of like Charlie's caretaker. And when you care that deeply for the person that you're caretaking, it is so easy to ignore your own basic needs. Not speaking from experience or anything, but and so I think it's really great to have a show like this that shows that slip kind of happen and for the other people in his life to say, hey, let's not forget that you also deserve to have fun. You deserve, you know, to get away for a night. You deserve to be able to take care of yourself and to have the support that you need as well. And so we see that with like Tara. And even I feel like Tao, we get a little bit of Tao supporting Nick.
Like when Nick breaks down at the party, you can tell how much he needed to just sit there and sob.
Yeah.
It's like all of this that he's been hiding or repressing just has nowhere to go anymore. And it just has to come out.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's a buildup of so much that he didn't allow himself to express because he thought it would be quote unquote bad or a disservice to Charlie when it wouldn't have been. And it was more of a disservice to himself.
Yeah. And Charlie wouldn't have wanted, you know, if Charlie had known
exactly
that any of that was happening, he would have encouraged him to talk, you know. Also, I think it's beautiful that it's Tao that we see sit down with him there for multiple reasons, but also like Tara is kind of his main support person. She's who he talks to and who he goes to and who checks on him. You see her that whole party. She's got her eyes, you know, you see her like thinking about him, looking at him. But when it comes to this particular breakdown, the person who's going to understand the most is going to be Tao because he's the other one that is just as close to Charlie. And so I think that's a real bonding moment for those two. And like in that moment, there's no one who got it more than Tao.
And it's nice to see, like we were talking about before with demonstrating like boys and men, like having eating disorders, how boys and men can break down with each other and support each other in that way.
Yes.
Like you can have an emotional moment that doesn't make you any quote unquote less strong or less anything.
Yeah, masculine.
It's nice to see male bonding in that way.
Yes.
Because we usually see like having a good time or like drinking together to forget issues and things. But seeing this scene where they just allow themselves to feel so emotionally and deeply is really like cool to see in two boys.
Yeah. And I like that they're all very touchy. Like everybody hugs. We get that, you know, the scene at band practice when like Tao and Isaac and Charlie are all like in the chair together and like, oh, where's my hug? Like all of that stuff is just so refreshing to see. Like boys can be physical with each other, can be tactile and not be like judged or be afraid to like, oh, like I can't hug my dude friend. Like, so it's just nice to see the way that friendship is just very open and tactile. Yeah, I guess is going back to that word.
And this popped up in my head after rewatching for the millionth time the last episode of season 3. You know, when they're about to, you know, how Charlie takes his shirt off for the first time. And it's a like very big moment. But it also made me realize like Nick may be quicker to reveal himself physically, but he's not going to reveal himself emotionally because he's masking it so much or hiding so much of himself in that like almost I don't think he even notices to that point because he's just so used to it. even though like Charlie and his relationship with Charlie and the friend group has definitely opened him up more. There's still, like he says in the episode prior, like he's still hiding behind the mask, even though he's, like I said, quicker to bear himself on a physical level. So it's cool to see that like opposite from Charlie.
Yeah, they're very yin and yang in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Charlie is a lot more emotionally available and like, open. Whereas Nick is very like, I like to think of Nick as like almost like a cat. Like he might let you touch him for a second, but if you move too quick, he's gonna run away.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Which, like, obviously Nick is a dog, but in the terms of this explanation.
I got you. Oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I never thought about that either, but it's like he's running away from himself,
Yeah.
As Charlie is finding himself, Nick is like slowly like about to explode with things, and he doesn't even know it. It's an interesting opposite yin-yang thing, like you said. And I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, because it shows so much of the perspective of different and manifestations of mental health problems in different people.
Yeah. Agreed. Another thing I really like that this show does is show us that it's okay to not forgive someone.
Yes.
For something. Because I think a lot of media, they're like, well, he's your dad. You gotta let it go, And we get to see his struggles with his brother and his father. And I think that those are like, that's an extremely common dynamic.
Yeah.
And so to see him like come to terms with it and like try to heal those parts of himself is a beautiful journey to watch, while also being like, hey, look, he doesn't have to see his dad if he doesn't want to. We see it with Ben too.
Yes.
Charlie is like, I actually hope you grow, but I'd like to never see you again. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah. It's such a nice reminder that boundaries aren't bad.
Yes.
Other people might not like them because it doesn't necessarily benefit them, but your boundaries are so necessary to your well-being and survival. And it's super cool that both of them have that experience of like not forgiving someone and that being okay. And to a certain extent, necessary for them to come to terms and accept themselves.
Yes. And I love seeing them supported in those decisions too, and not like ostracized for it. Like we get Sarah being like, you don't owe him anything, and so I think that's also important for multiple perspectives in that situation.
Yeah.
And I really, again, would just like to drive home that just because they're blood doesn't mean that you have to make room for them in your life. Yeah. If they treat you poorly, then it's up to you if you want to lay that boundary. And if you do, that is valid. And you shouldn't feel bad about it.
Absolutely. Like, what are you going to tolerate? Right. And that's something that is so necessary to keep repeating and driving home, especially like on the guilt tripping level, because that's huge. And I love how you said that they're supported in their decisions, because again, for lack of better words, that's everything. Being supported in your decisions, or even being firm in those decisions for yourself, but still having that support from the outside is nice as like a cherry on top. Yes. Icing on the cake, Yeah. And it helps you feel more validated in that decision, and helps you not feel guilty yourself. Yeah. Like there's internal guilt and there's external guilt. And the internal guilt can be a lot heavier sometimes, especially in situations like this. So having people validate you setting boundaries like that helps kind of quiet that internal guilt. I'm curious as to, can I ask you a question? Sure. I'm curious as to your kind of opinions or thoughts on Darcy and their struggle, whether it be like necessarily mental health or just what they go through, diagnosed or not, with things, like how that representation of their story is important too. So yeah, I mean, we don't get a diagnosis for Darcy, I don't think. But
I think there are a lot of signs that hint at either ADHD or perhaps being on the autism spectrum. Those can look really similar sometimes, so it's hard to know which direction with Darcy, but just their almost like a lack of a filter.
Yeah.
And reading those social cues. They get yelled at by Tara a lot. We hear a lot of Darcy, So seeing that is important, because I think that that's, especially we know now that getting diagnosed with either of those as an AFAB person that is young is very difficult. So I almost wish that we could have gotten into Darcy a bit more. But then also seeing their gender journey was like so beautiful and important, because you really see, not to keep saying this word, but we see them blossom. Yeah. Because in the beginning they are very like, I don't want to say like lost, but you can tell that they are kind of floating from day to day, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so once we get to see a bit of their home life and understand kind of what's going on in between the school days that we're seeing, everything just kind of starts making sense. Yeah. And to see them kind of go from, I don't want to tell anyone about my home life. I can't even consider myself a lesbian, really, because I can't say it at home. Yeah. And not being able to tell Tara that they love her for that reason. And then when we finally see them living with Tara in season 3 and really being supported, it's almost like if you are supported in who you are, it's like easier to be healthy. Yeah. So, and then we see like when they move in with their gran, it gets even better. Yeah. And you see the way that their outfits change and like the way they carry themselves changes. Yeah, I don't know what point I was trying to make. Just waxing poetic about Darcy, I guess.
Their storyline is so important on so many levels. And I think it's really cool what you said about like them slowly coming into their own, because it's like they were just floating. They were just surviving because that was the kind of the cards they were dealt. Right. And knowing like that, being shown that you can kind of come into your own at all, and you can find people that are going to accept you, even if you are still discovering yourself, like that you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have it all figured out, and that it can be a process to discover different things about yourself, like your sexuality or different things like that. And I think just their storyline is so important.
Yeah. And it was another example of seeing it step by step, like seeing the progress of it. We see them testing out they, them pronouns, and then the haircut and the honestly wardrobe, complete wardrobe change, and then to finally saying I'm non-binary. Yeah. And just seeing like not only their friends support them, but their gran. Yeah. I love that shot in the Christmas in winter at Christmas when they're like, I need your strong muscles to help me move the table or whatever. Yeah. It's like just so nice.
And I think it's realistic to show that as much as I love the support that Charlie's parents and Nick's mom shows him, that's not always going to be there. Yeah. And for a lot of people, it's unfortunately not, Yeah. It's necessary to show that for what it is. Very sad, but something that has to be acknowledged.
Right. Yeah. And I think also we get a little bit of that rep with Jane as well. Granted, it's a better outcome with Jane. We get to see her kind of learn and grow and make an effort, whereas Darcy's mom puts her foot down and refuses to grow and change. I do wish we had seen more. I think that Charlie and Darcy could have really had some bonding moments over their home life, and that we didn't get to see. And I think that would be a very interesting relationship to explore.
And on that note too, kind of supporting that, you come to believe, especially as a child, what you're fed and how you're treated, that's fair, that's normal, that you deserve it. And that really does
Mm-hmm.
carry over into your adult life or even as an older child. That doesn't just go away, that has long-lasting effects that I think it's important to show that it's not just like, it's easy to dismiss a child's mental health as like, oh, they'll forget. Oh, they're just a child throwing a tantrum. They're just, like you said, attention
Mm-hmm.
seeking too. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just immature. But
Yeah.
demonstrating that just because someone is a child doesn't mean they don't know what's going on to a certain degree or like
Right.
realize how they're being treated, even if they don't know that it's bad, quote unquote, sometimes.
Yeah. And that I think can tie into like
Mm-hmm.
listening to your body too, because something that your mind is saying, this is normal. This is, this is just what life is. Your body
Mm-hmm.
can be telling you something different. And so it's important to listen to your body. And if it's making you uncomfortable or making you feel awful,
Mm-hmm.
maybe look into that a little bit more and not just default to, well, this is just what my life is.
Yeah.
Tao's journey is another one that I really loved watching because you see with him
Mm-hmm.
the fear of abandonment, and he masks it
Mm-hmm.
as like anger and overprotection. Or I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it manifests in anger and overprotection. And so like in season 1, you're like,
Yeah.
what the heck, Tao? Like, he's his own person. He can talk to whoever he wants to, And so I think I know that me and Alyssa did a lot of criticizing a lot of his actions and words and through season 1. And then when we got the reveal in season 2 that his dad had passed away, kind of all that came with that for him, it all just slid into place. It explained everything, and now I'm like, I need to go back and re-record season 1 because I was too hard on Tao.
Yeah.
And so seeing like him work through that and start to understand that about himself and start to give himself boundaries and learn how to truly support his friends versus just trying to protect everybody from everything all the time was really interesting. And seeing him go on the journey in season 3 of, the camcorder and the speech he gives about, I wish I had sat still and I wish I had posed, and all of that hit home probably harder for me than others considering my mom had just passed away. So just seeing how he took that grief that it's almost like he had been avoiding it a little bit, for a little while. And then he finally got to the point where he was ready to pick up that camera and kind of turn that grief into something beautiful and turn it into a way to give back to his friends was really nice to see.
I honestly could not have said that better, so I'm not going to try to. But I think it's really cool how, adding to all that you said, at the end of season 3, he's excited for Elle when she's going to leave.
Yes.
To study somewhere else. And he doesn't see that as being left or abandoned.
Yeah.
Because he's grown so much that it's almost like loving and letting go and just letting someone be free to make their own mistakes, to experience what they have to experience in order to grow for themselves, but still being there to support them in their decisions, in moments where maybe their decisions don't go as well as they'd hoped.
Yeah.
I think that's important to emphasize, or it does emphasize his growth.
Yeah. My little buddy Tao.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can also talk about Elle since we just talked about Tao. We get to see her navigating identity and safety is something we see her explore as well. The amount of growth that those two do is wild between seasons 1 and 3. I mean, they all grow a lot, but like really thinking about season 1 Tao and Elle versus season 3 Tao and Elle, like, woo, very, very different places. I hate that we had to see her go through the radio debacle.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I really laid into that adult on that episode, so I won't go down that road again. But I do think it was important. It was like a lesson that she needed to learn too. I wish she hadn't had to. I wish that we lived in a world where she didn't have to, but it was a good lesson that, you know, you have to be careful who you allow in your life, who you sit down and have those conversations with. And also, sadly, as a trans person, I feel it's extra important to be careful about ulterior motives and clarifying the reason why they have you doing whatever they're doing before you get started. God, nothing makes me more mad than that. When that episode. But I love how fierce her mom was about it. They were not going to let that continue on.
Thank goodness.
Thankfully.
I love that she has that support. It was such a traumatic experience for her. But like you said, it's kind of like not a wake-up call, because it's not like she was totally blind to it, but just a reminder that unfortunately, very unfortunately, the world, or some people in this world, just aren't accepting, and maybe even are out to or happy to not be accepting.
Yeah. And even the fiercest ally can go about something the wrong way. So even if that radio woman like had no ill intention, she still caused harm in the way that she went about doing what she did.
And I was so proud of Elle for, in that moment, defending herself and her community. She shouldn't have had to by any means.
Right. Especially as a teenager.
But unfortunately, she was put in that position, and she was fierce in her own way, even though she later really struggled to come to terms with the experience.
Yeah. I don't think I talked enough on that episode of our podcast about how the teacher really left some openings for that to happen by, it seems like she just kind of got contacted and was like, yeah, I'll send Elle your way, like without doing much investigation about really what was happening. Because I think if the teacher had asked just a few questions, she probably could have sussed out that this was not going to be focused on the art.
And being careful of who you trust, especially as a trans person, is unfortunately something that trans people really have to watch out for. Yeah.
It was beautiful to see her have Naomi and Felix, though, who, when she's like, no one, I haven't talked to Tao, he's not going to understand. And Naomi's like, well, you can talk to us, we might understand. And it's like, yeah, girl, you have more than just Tao to lean on in your life. And again, this underlines the platonic impact, the platonic relationships that can impact you, and how having friends that get you and that's, relate to you in all these different ways helps create that overall support system that you need just to get through life.
I think that's what I meant earlier by like empathy can only go so far. Like, yes, empathy all the way, but some people that haven't gone through the same experience as you just aren't going to get it. And it's not necessarily bad or their fault. They just aren't going to understand certain nuances of your experience the same way that, for example, like a trans person is going to understand another person that went through the same or a similar experience.
Right. It does. Yeah. Okay. And then I think that through Isaac, we get to see the like quiet mental toll of not understanding your own identity and feeling left out of formative experiences, which I think can present in so many ways of adolescence. Being super into one specific fandom and having no friends that that talk about it. Like even as an adult, it's like, I need someone to talk to about this. Well, if that's your like the only thing you're really into and no one else is relating to it, that can be very isolating. It can be maybe you're a big reader and nobody else understands why you're always reading a book. Like, there are so many ways in which you can feel alone and you can not understand why you're not quote unquote normal or why you're not fitting in with the masses. And so that is, I feel like we see a couple of ways with Isaac. The introvertness, that's, society as a whole really pushes extroverted living, And so we see that. We see, obviously, his asexual journey is a big one. And so I think similarly to the way that we don't see a lot of positive bisexual representation, we don't see a lot of asexual representation, period. And then when we do see it, I don't think it's very well done, usually. And so this is just another area that Alice has absolutely aced in wholesome, beautiful, normalized representation.
And I think this is where something that you said earlier about, like, even the fiercest ally sometimes not getting it right, not understanding. No one in his friend group meant necessarily to exclude him at all, but being misunderstood or assumptions that people have, whether they realize it or not, can be harmful, even if absolutely it's not meant to be that way. And they did support Isaac once Isaac discovered himself in that way, which was also beautiful. But being misunderstood, even by your own self, but also by others, can really do a number on you as a person trying to navigate life.
Yeah. And I think I don't think we see enough anything, books, shows, movies, any kind of media that doesn't place the focus or like extreme weight on romantic partnerships. Like, we don't just see enough friendship stories, like, and that can, like, if especially in Isaac's case, like, and he's sitting there reading, like, he's reading romance books. All of his friends are paired up, and so I just wish that we saw more where romance, like, isn't even a factor. Let's just get some stories about supporting each other and friendships and platonic love. And I think that if he had even been able to consume media where platonic love was emphasized, perhaps he would have gotten, I guess, not to the realization sooner, but just like felt less wrong,
Absolutely. It's like, again, societal expectations of sexuality and the need for romance.
Yeah.
And it's so pushed, like it's part of your value as a person, whether you're in a relationship and you're supposed to be in a relationship by this time. And it's like, maybe I just don't want a romantic partner, or don't feel a need for a romantic partner, or just don't, like, within yourself, that that's not for you.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
At all, but those are just my 2 cents.
Yeah. And you can feel happy and fulfilled without a romantic partner.
Exactly.
In the same way that you can be in a long-term relationship and feel happy and fulfilled without having children. Even though society is like, pop them out, pop out a baby, do it, do it.
Yeah, totally. I have no words, but totally. That would be a rant on my part. So I'm just going to say it's yes, totally. Preach it out.
Okay, and then with Tara, I feel like we see the extreme levels of stress and pressure put on, particularly those in school. Clearly, she has supportive mom. I think we see her dad once in the comics, but we don't see anyone but her mom in the show, who is supportive in many ways, because we get to see Darcy obviously move in with them and all of that stuff. But we do see her subtly pressuring her about her academics. And I think that that is something that, like, when it's happening, right, you're not thinking about the repercussions of that pressure when you're telling your kid, you know, that you better bring home all A's or you're going to be grounded for a week or whatever, and what that's going to do long term to their personality.
And their sense of like self-worth.
Yes.
Equating it to productivity and equating it to like, you have to do excellent all the time. Your best isn't enough if it's a C or a B. Your best has to be an A 100% and 100% of the time. You know? When sometimes that's just not realistic, you know?
Yeah.
Most of the time, because there's so much going on, especially as a teenager in people's lives in terms of like personal growth and development and things. And there's this like pressure to figure all of life out in high school. Like, what are you going to do in college? And then what are you going to do as a job? And I feel that goes along with the grade part in terms of if you don't get good grades, you won't have a good job. You won't get into college. You'll be poor, whatever that means. Like, you won't succeed in your life if you don't get an A, you know?
Right.
Like, it's all of these like unrealistic things when in reality, like an A can mean nothing.
Yeah, it's so true.
Your best is enough.
Yeah, regardless of where that falls.
Exactly. It's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
Like, you literally cannot do more than that.
It's true. And then I just have a little on Imogen because, again, we don't get to see much of her journey, but we get a little taste of it. And her and Nick's journeys are super parallel of not knowing who they are, trying to find acceptance, people pleasing, and then the sexuality journey at the end. But just seeing her trying to find herself. I think I talked in a part when they are on the uni tour about how even through her outfits on that tour, you can see her like trying on different personalities, right? When they're at the like super smart, like Oxford or whatever, she's got on like glasses and she's dressed like a little fancier. And then, you know, at the next one, she's more like in like a sporty outfit. And so like you kind of see her testing out, like, if I came to this college, like this is who I would be. And so seeing her kind of go through that journey of trying to figure out which one of these personalities is me, you know? So yeah, it's nice to see her kind of fumbling and trying to figure out who she is in a different way than Nick. Yeah. I have no notes on Sahar. I'm like, is Sahar the most mentally stable character we have in the show?
Actually, I wonder more about Sahar's backstory and things.
Yeah.
Because they don't really show much of that.
Yeah.
Or her feelings. They do show in relation to Imogen.
Yeah, but outside of that.
Yeah.
I feel like we've touched on the next section quite a bit going through, which was just like adults and support systems, like the importance of having a trusted adult, which we saw with all like the teachers, with Sarah, with Jeff, Aunt Diane, you know, that talk that she gives. I know it's from Sarah in the comics. I feel like it hits just as hard in the show. Like either way, it hits just as hard. And it's such an important conversation to have that no one person can be the entire support system for someone, and that you can't just fix everything for everyone all the time. I'm glad that they worked that into the show even without Olivia Colman, because it's one of the most important lines of the comic, I feel like.
In the show, yeah. And the comics too.
But also even like, I feel like Sarah gets her flowers the most of the adults for being like wonderful in the way that she handles Nick. I have expressed some criticism in the way that she handles David.
Yes.
But I think overall she does a great job of being open and creating a level of trust and comfort with Nick so that he knows he can come to her. The same with Julio. I have expressed some complaints in the way that he handles some things,
Yes.
but he does handle Charlie pretty well.
And I think it's cool to see how a parent isn't perfect, but can try.
Yes.
There's that like role of, let's say, Jane versus Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah is more painted as like the perfect parent sometimes, or like she at least gets more flowers, like you said.
Yeah.
But certain situations, like she doesn't handle well. And in a different way, there are certain situations that Jane doesn't handle well, but they're both trying. And that's,
Yes.
could they do things differently? Of course. But that effort part is still cool to see too.
Yeah. Also, Elle's parents, I know we
Mm.
touched on them a bit too, just being supportive. And I love that with Elle's story, we got to just kind of dive in
Mhm.
post-transition and just see how supportive and caring and worried they are for her. Like, they're very realistic in that there are some areas of life that are going to be harder for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And being careful with
Mhm.
her. Also, Yan, I feel like no one gives
Yes.
Yansu
Yes.
enough credit because she's phenomenal.
She's wonderful. She's amazing.
I have no complaints
No,
about
actually,
Yan or anything that she's done.
actually,
she's great. I wish we could see more Yan. I would love a Sue family spinoff.
that would be cool, actually.
And then, yeah, having the teachers, too, just be so supportive. And, you know, it's seen most with Mr. Ajayi, right? We get to see, like, him, the art room being the safe space and him being the one that Charlie talks to the most about his stuff. But also, like, Coach Singh in the way that she's there for Nick is maybe a little more subtle, but very apparent still. Even when Charlie comes back from residential, she kind of quietly checks in with Nick, you know. And it's just nice to see that throughout all of that, she's been clocking what's going on, been aware of it, and is making sure to check on both of them and not just Charlie.
And it doesn't have to be like overly protective, if that makes sense. Like it can be like a subtle experience of like just a look or a smile or like a nod, a pat on the back. It doesn't have to be this loud thing for someone to feel seen,
right,
or supported. And I think that's cool to demonstrate. Yeah,
and I feel like that's kind of just how she operates, right? It's very just like surface level, very, you know, open and subtle. You know, even with his coming out. When she caught them, when she caught them, and then was like, you know, if they're giving you any trouble, you let me know. I remember how it was with my wife when I met her, like, and she just drops it and keeps going, and just keeping it casual like that can just make it feel more safe, I guess, safer to open up, more comfortable to talk to them.
And that's where, like, I really liked that conversation because she just normalized it. It's not like a big thing that she has a wife, you know? That's just like,
right.
And by the way, like that I went through that experience too, and like let me know if anyone gives you trouble, you know? It's not like a big like scene. It's just like normalized.
Yeah. And then you have Mr. Farouk, who's also like this is very quiet support, right? Like we see it in the fist bumps and in him saying, "Oh, Charlie, you know, there are many younger students who would really be inspired to see you be head boy." Like Mr. Farouk is never going to be the one to sit you down and be like, "All right, so tell me what's going on in your life." You know, it's going to be, you know, like you said, a head nod, a fist bump. Just a quick check-in.
And now that you mentioned Mr. Farouk, I love the scene where he sees himself as a young boy sitting at the desk.
I know.
Again, just showing, one, how far someone can go in their own process, how you can survive and come out better on the other side. That also, like, your experiences in childhood can mark you and leave you, like, affected throughout your entire life. And it takes work and it takes a lot of, honestly, like struggle to get through a lot of things that you can go through in childhood that continue on to affect you into adulthood. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I appreciate about every story in Heartstopper is that they're very clear on like, yeah, you're going to struggle to get better,
Yeah.
but you can still get better, but it's going to be hard. Like it's going to be really
Yeah.
difficult, but you can still
Yeah.
do it. Like you have it in you, you know?
Yeah. And then also we have Jeff and Susan, who were just like professionals, but they were able
Mm-hmm.
to be approachable. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's really important to remember in a professional setting is like
Yeah.
making yourself approachable and open and easy to talk to is
Mm-hmm.
super important to treating someone. Because if they're not being fully open and comfortable with you, then you're probably not getting the full picture of what you are supposed to be helping them with. So it was nice to see therapy done so well, and to see his relationship with Susan was like really, really cute and adorable.
And even with what you said, like you aren't going to be able to help them to the full extent.
Right.
If someone doesn't feel comfortable being honest with you and being who they really are with you, like genuine. It's just so important for someone in that field of work and profession to make themselves approachable, like you said.
Yeah, it's very important. And sometimes super hard to do. So, and then also just before we wrap up, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is we talked about like the impact of having a trusted adult and all of that, but also I think the representation of not being the best adult, not being a trusted adult. I know we see it all the time in media, but to see it juxtaposed with the really healthy adult relationships is also super important because maybe there is someone out there who's watching who feels fully justified and comfortable in acting like Jane or like Darcy's mom.
Yeah.
And then they see this in the context of a bunch of really healthy adults and really healthy relationships and then go, oh, maybe how I feel or how I'm acting isn't right. Maybe it's not as valid as I thought it was. And maybe I do need to grow and change. And so I think it's important to kind of see the full spectrum of adults in this show.
I agree. It's important to show that not every adult is going to necessarily try, or they can try but still do it wrong.
Right.
But especially, as you said, juxtaposed with an adult that is doing a better job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, quote unquote, that's also perspective-wise, you know. But
right.
So that's something I really appreciated too.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of chatter from people, like, because not everybody who's watching this show identifies as queer in any way, or even that are watching it and getting something out of the parents, like that don't even have kids, you know, and they'll say like, now I know for sure when I have kids that I know what to say and what not to say if they come out to me or if they're struggling with something. Like I've learned both what to do and what not to do from watching this show. And so that's also just like really nice to see that people are getting so much out of this short little show.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that, how it's almost like a lesson in how to be supportive in the best way. And also like what's not going to work.
Yeah. And in multiple relationship dynamics, like not just romantically, not just as a parent, not just as a friend, you know, you kind of see everything. As a sibling, we didn't even really get into Tori, but like seeing their sibling dynamic also was so nice to see as someone who has two brothers and isn't very close with either of them. Like just seeing them, the way that she cares for him and the way that he cares for her too, and how they're there for each other and how they they can see it, you know, like when no one else can see that they're going through something, Tori and Charlie know, like they can tell. And like how they do it through humor and like snarkiness, support can look many different ways.
I also appreciated that.
Yeah. Okay, so as we kind of discussed a little bit, everybody is getting something different from this show, which is so cool to see. Like, we're all watching the exact same show, but we're seeing it differently. We're learning different things from it. Even the same lesson can be taught a different way, depending on your perspective. And I've had a lot of fun on this podcast, hearing from everybody from all over and kind of getting y'all's stories and your perspective and your thoughts and opinions on everything that has happened. And I think that talking to other people about these things makes it even more impactful than if you're just consuming it and it's just your inner thoughts. And so the sense of community that has really been built around this show is truly beautiful. There was even a book written about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's the Why We Like This, Stories of Transformation. And that is by George Hightower and Rowan Murphy. And it's really, really, really beautiful. If you haven't read it, it's out, I think, on Amazon in multiple countries. And they just compiled a bunch of stories from people who are fans of the show and comics and kind of just organized them based on topic, right? So there's a gender section, there's a sexuality section, there's a community section. And it's just really beautiful to kind of hear how deeply impacted so many of us were. And people from all walks of life. I mean, teenagers to 60-year-olds, queer, not queer, kids, no kids. And the way that everybody was impacted was really beautiful. So I recommend that.
I think what you said about the communities that have been formed through Heartstopper is really demonstrative of the power of positive representations of LGBTQ plus topics, of mental health topics. Yes, there are a lot of things that set us apart and make us different from each other, but even one thing that we have in common can unite and make someone feel belong, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And Heartstopper has played a big part in that, at least for me. So I think that's a nice quality to something done with such care, like you talked about.
Yes.
That it has had that effect because of the care that's been put into it.
Yeah. The community aspect was the biggest for impact from the show for me as well. So my story is in the community section of the book. But I like what you said about how it's almost like we all have these embers, right? But we're just waiting for that spark to start to light the fire.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what this did, was it lit the fire. And now I have this beautiful bonfire going of a community around this show. So,
and even how that community can light us up from cheesy as it sounds, light us up from within as our own person.
Yes,
it comes from the outside of the community, but the effect that can have on your inner workings as a human being also.
Definitely. Okay, also I collected some tweets just to read off that kind of talk about the mental health representation and how it impacted them. And I collected these from so long ago because some of them are recent and some of them are from 2022. So I'm just going to go through. So someone said, Heartstopper really changed my life, honestly. I had never found a character who went through everything I did. And when I first saw Charlie Spring, it made me so emotional. I felt seen for the first time. He's just so special. Alice did such a good job developing him as a character and portraying his OCD, anorexia, and self-harm in a way that wasn't romanticized. It's so hard to feel represented when people only show stereotypes of OCD and eating disorders, but they didn't do that, and it's so nice.
No.
Someone else said, I will forever be grateful to Alice Oseman plus Heartstopper for showing me that experiencing/recovering from a mental illness isn't a linear journey. So many films/shows/books will pretend that there's a magic cure to mental health or that falling in love can cure it, but Heartstopper shows that it isn't always the case and that it's a good thing. It shows how there's ups and downs, but even with seemingly small things, it can help someone's experiencing or recovering from something. Heartstopper has helped me so much through life. Today, I had the confidence to tell my mom that something is wrong. I didn't know exactly what to say, but I told her about my mental health and asked what I could do. It feels like a weight is off of my shoulders. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wish I had discovered Heartstopper sooner. I spent so many years of my life trying to survive. If I had known this would help me so much, I really would have watched it sooner. That was a 2025, so they probably went back and watched all of it. Heartstopper helped me discover I had an eating disorder and that it wasn't just normal. And I'm sure it did for a lot of people. It's important for young queer people to have stuff like this instead of relying primarily on straight shows for their little bit of crumbs like us.
Mm-hmm.
Heartstopper Season 3, Episode 4 wrecked me. The way it handled getting help for OCD had me sobbing. I wish shows like this were around when I was younger, but I'm so glad that kids have them now. Genuinely, Heartstopper has changed my life. It helped me get the help that I needed when I got diagnosed with OCD that branched into my eating disorder. I always thought I wasn't considered to have an eating disorder because I wasn't mainly focused on my weight, but it truly helped me realize that it was an eating disorder. Heartstopper made my life so much better in so many ways. It made me realize that it's okay to ask for help and gave me friends that I couldn't find anywhere else. So I'm so grateful for that. I feel like I pulled too many. I'm trying to narrow it down. I don't care what anyone says. Heartstopper made me feel like being alive as who I am is worth it. It was also the first time I was able to see different people like me, a bi person, a non-binary person, and an aro-aspec person, accessible for me unlike other TV series or films. It helped me breathe.
Wow.
Yeah. Thinking about how Heartstopper helped me understand how I was feeling and gave me the words to describe the thoughts inside my head, I'll forever be grateful for the Heartstopper universe. And then someone replied and said, same here, it helped me both mentally but also emotionally about my sexuality. I really don't know what I'll do without it, sad face.
No. Yeah.
And I like this one. It says, my husband watched Heartstopper with me, and he was in tears at the end of season 1, and then he had the audacity to say, I feel like I understand you just a little bit better now.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. As a person who experienced an eating disorder in my teens, this hurts and at the same time relieves, because it will make it visible to many people and help them. Thank you, Heartstopper.
Wow.
There's just a snapshot of how just showing mental health handled this carefully can impact so many people all over.
Life-changing.
Well, thank you for, first of all, bringing this to me and wanting to talk about it, and then for sitting down and having this lovely chat.
Thank you for giving me the space to do so and allowing me and supporting me through this process and experience with you.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we end, I do want to just throw out some resources for people if you're listening and you're struggling. I just wrote down the basics, and then I will link everything in the episode notes where you can find more resources. For our U.S. people, there is the National Crisis Line. That is 988. So you would just dial 988. And it would get you to them. There's also the LGBTQIA National Hotline, which is separate. They did shut down like the 3-number direct line, but this is something separate that is still operating. And it's available from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and then on Saturdays from 12 to 5 Eastern. And that is trained volunteers available to support members of the queer community and provide safe and affirming spaces to talk. Their phone number is 888-843-4564. Again, I'm going to link their website. Then we also have Translifeline, which is kind of similarly ran. It is just a safe space to talk. Their lifeline is 877-565-8860. And they also have on their website a directory of hotlines and warm lines that provide a range of specialized services, including BIPOC-specific lines, LGBTQ lines, religious lines, substance abuse, mental health support, and more. And then we also have the Blackline here, which is a BIPOC-specific hotline, and their number is 1-800-604-5841. And they also have an app that you can download to use. And then the Human Rights Campaign has even more resources listed on their site, so that will be linked. And then for our UK listeners, you can dial 111 and choose the mental health option for help. There are also some free listening services. You can call 116-123 to talk to Samaritans, or you can email them. I'll put that info below. You can text SHOUT to 85258 to contact a crisis line called the Shout Crisis Text Line, and you can text them YM if you're under 19, just to talk to someone who's trained to talk to the youth. And then if you are under 19, you can also call 0800-111 to talk to the Child Line, and that number will not appear on any phone bills. And then there's the Switchboard LGBT plus helpline. Switchboard provides listening services for queer people over the phone, via email, and they have a chat option as well. And their phone number is 0800-011-100. And then you can also email them at hello@switchboard.lgbt. And their hours are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And then the NHS also has a bunch of other resources on their site. So I'm going to put links to all of that and more in the episode description. So there's all of that there. If you are in need or you know someone who needs that information, check it out in the description. All right, so that just about wraps us up for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining me, Gloria. And I will be back in your earbuds soon with another episode. In the meantime, if you like what you heard, please consider rating and reviewing us on your platform of choice. Until next time, bye.
Bye.